Welcome back, or welcome if you're a first time viewer. On this podcast, we usually talk about wrestling, shoe releases, and paranormal activity. But this week on the podcast, we're going to talk about something a little different because it's Summerslam weekend and it's a two-night event. I'm going to start recapping and seeing if they're capitalizing on anything that I've been talking about. Not that they're listening to me, but to see if they're actually improving anything that we've discussed on this podcast. So, first night, we had CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes. Randy interrupted and returned, which was great, a great surprise. But everybody's sore because, oh, poor Cody, poor Cody. My man has had the championship forever. Okay, it's okay that someone else carries the championship, whether you like Punk or not. It's okay to move it on. It was a good match. I feel like it went a little too long. It was the longest match of the night. So I feel like they're getting they're a little old. Uh, I like to say CM Punk turns a shade of red when he wrestles because he's so tired. Cody, you can tell he's exhausted because he looks like he's crying. But then again, when does Cody not look like he's crying? But it was a decent match. A little long, but good. I didn't really like how they had Randy come back, but it was okay. What they should have done was is they should have had Randy come back right before the ref woke up. Instead, there was like a lull where the ref was laying on the ground. Cody had time to recover. It wasn't that believable that Cody would have still been down. But it was a good match. We're gonna move on to Oba versus Brock. And I'm not necessarily doing these in order. I'm just telling you the way that I want to discuss them. Oba versus Brock was pretty insane. The Hell in a Cell match. Brock tore up the ring and opened up the floor. And I felt like that was obviously meant to happen. You can see the dotted lines and the tears in the ring. The ring isn't that easy to rip. So it was definitely a different material than normal. It was decent, high paced. I mean, everything you would expect from Oba and Brock. The ending was where it was at because Oba did deliver. He did beat Brock, and Brock did recognize that Oba was great. Now, behind the scenes, I'm going to pull my little Unreal segment here. Behind the scenes, a lot of people don't understand this that Brock has been training Oba probably since he came back to challenge Oba. And they've kind of like bonded. So to see Oba and Brock like hug it out at the end, that was truly amazing because you don't ever see Brock Lesnar ever show his human side. And whatever everybody else wants to say about him, and I agree with a lot of the stuff that's said about him, but I will say that that was a good ending. And I don't want to say this, I'm using this term loosely, but I'm proud of Brock that he swallowed his manliness and actually showed something of a real person. Whether it was really him or not, who knows? Probably scripted, because everything's scripted and it's all on Unreal every season. So, I mean, there we go. Uh, but it was a good match. Brock Lesnar supposedly came out afterwards and retired. I don't know. I seen a reel on that, but it was kind of far away and I really couldn't tell if it was current or not. So I don't really want to put my stamp of approval on that I can say I guarantee that. But that's what I've seen on Facebook. Now, here's the match that I had called months ago. Months ago when Paige first came back. Paige came in with the Bellas to do a three-way match, and it was an absolute disaster, first of all. Brie got hurt. Then they end the match, and Paige loses, of course. But it wasn't Paige's fault because Brie was hurt and Nikki was knocked out of the ring. They came in, they kind of held Paige's hand up high in a phony thing. Now, I had called this months ago, okay, on my earlier podcast, and they turned on Paige. And I knew it was only a matter of time because the minute you see Nikki come back into the fray, you know that that's Bree's sister. That's why they're called the Bellas. They're not called the Bella Page. They're called the Bellas. So I knew back then that this was just temporary because Nikki was hurt. Nikki came back, and I knew that they were going to turn on Paige. It was done terribly. I think it was stupid. They ended the match super early, so you kind of knew what was happening. It's just, here we go about the storytelling again. You have to blend it better. And these people have to be better actors. If that's what you're going to base your product on, is acting, then you need to have better acting scenes here, okay? Because it wasn't done well at all. And for Nikki Bella, who has been on Lifetime movies and other shows, I just it doesn't impress me that this is the acting skill that you put forward. It was terrible. And I understand Brie Bella was hurt, but Brie Bella was like kicking Paige with her top of her toe. So it looked like so stupid. Um, but like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I called it a while ago. Wrestling is very predictive. I feel like I could just make a podcast about predicting matches, and I it would be a hit because I am always on key with every match. I can call it before a week before the match even's entered into the ring, entered in someone's thoughts. I'm there. I'm instant. I'm telling you what's going to happen before it happens. So now that I touched on that, we go to the Gunther and Nick Aldis match. It was a good match. Nick Aldis looked supreme. I was absolutely excited for this match. I put all kinds of media down just so I could watch this match. And I was super disappointed at the end because here we go all over again with a John Cena stupid looking at the camera smile match where I'm going to tap. In reality, if you looked at Gunther and you looked at Nick Aldis in an alley, I would be much more terrified of Nick Aldis than Gunther. Okay? I'm sorry. I think Gunther has taken this weight loss way too far. I think he looks anorexic. He has no muscle, and your move is a sleeper hold. Ooh, wow. You're so cool. I just feel like that's just, it's kind of gross how skinny he is now. And I don't like what they did with Nick Aldis, but I understand it's to put people over. He probably won't wrestle again because now he's back to being a general manager. He didn't quit. So that's good. I mean, I'm happy that he got his match. I'm happy he came out. I'm happy he looked awesome. Not missing a step. This guy is a legend. Okay? A legend. Just like Adam Pierce. They both sit behind those suit coats and everybody thinks that they can't do nothing. But let me tell you, him and Adam Pierce both have a lengthy, legendary career. So hats off to Nick Aldis for coming back, showing what he's made of still. There was not an ounce of ring rust. I thought he was great. And then we're going to go on to the Sky and Liv match, which it's the same old narrative. Here comes Raquel. Here they come. Judgment Day. Let's interfere. Blah, 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 blah. It's always the same thing with Judgment Day. It's annoying. None of them can win titles on their own. And they all are like, I'm the best in the world. Well, the only reason why you're best in the world is because you have people helping you. On a one-on-one basis, you probably wouldn't have won. Okay? So, you know, that Eve Sky and Liv Morgan match, I felt like was a waste. The last match I'm going to discuss for night one is the Usos versus LA, Solo, and Keys. Great match, great charisma, probably the most redeeming match of the night because we did not only get to see Keys whoop some ass. We didn't only get to see LA Knight whoop some ass and Solo whoop some ass. We got to see the comedic side of Solo. And he ran it back right in front of Jey Uso and rolled it back. And Jey Uso was looking at him like, what? Well, how are you doing that? How are you getting the crowd to do that? That was the best part. Solo is going to be a great, great talent. They just keep on moving him forward. He's going to be awesome. So that was the first night. It was okay, but I feel like it fell short. And the only really good match of that night was the Usos versus LA Solo and Keys. I thought it was good. Night two, ladies and gentlemen, kind of blew me away. I was waiting for the Sami Zayn versus Finn Balor match. When they were both in the ring And Nick Aldis came out. He said, "Hold on, everybody. I'm going to add another participant to this match." And he added Gunther, and I was like, "Ugh, that means Gunther's gonna win." Ew. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, key word, ew. And I felt like that a lot the first night also. Definitely with the Liv Morgan match. Ew. Like, why are you saying you're the greatest champion of all times and you have to have help? Gunther, you were already at night one. Why are you having another match on night two? Like, it's kind of star hogging, and I'm not into that. I'm really not into Gunther. Everybody's behind Gunther, the superstars and all that, but I'm just not really. He's bland, anorexic looking, and I just feel like you're just not that entertaining. Your best move is a sleeper hold. Well, guess what? You put a sleeper hold on the audience too, because we're all falling asleep. They turned that match then into a three-way, but then Nick Aldis wasn't done. Because Nick Aldis said, "Everybody, I'm adding a fourth participant. And I'm turning this match into a fatal four-way." And all of a sudden, the music hits. And a lot of people have forgotten this music. I'm guilty of it. I had to think about it for a minute. And I flipped out because it was Kevin Owens. And this match was definitely entertaining. Sami Zayn made me piss my pants by the look on his face. All he did for 15 minutes, he just stared at the camera like, and I thought that was hilarious because he just was in shock. Okay, I do like how they hugged in the middle of the ring and then they started fighting. But Sammy, you really need to cut this crybaby shit out, okay? It's old. We know you're better than this. Fight for what you want. Quit whining. That was definitely a comedic view of Sami Zayn. Just seeing him sit there and stare at Kevin Owens like he was absolutely in shock that this guy has come back. I mean, hell, we were all freaking surprised because the last time I heard, Kevin Owens had terrible news about an update. So I read into it and I heard that he probably wouldn't come back for a while. So that was definitely a curveball. I enjoyed the match and Kevin Owens won. So hats off to KO. You're going to fight CM Punk. We'll see how that goes. And one thing I didn't understand, side note, backstage, Triple H was talking, and as Triple H was talking, or Paul Levesque, as he likes to be called nowadays, was talking, he had said that there's tons of history between Kevin Owens and CM Punk, which I could be wrong, but I don't think Kevin Owens was around that long, or even around when CM Punk was around. So I don't know. I think that was a little misspeaking there, but whatever. Just trying to add drama so Kevin Owens will have some reason to fight CM Punk angrily. Okay, so I wasn't too interested in that. Next, we have Trick versus Corbin. Super disappointing. I do not like Corbin. I didn't like him when he was here before. Just a bland character, an everyday wannabe. I'm sorry. I think that Trick should have held on to that belt. He just did a special design to it and put fur all over it and customized it. How disappointing. How disappointing. And I don't know. I don't see why the big push of Corbin. You take this great black superstar who is athletic to the nines, and you bring in this wrestler that is just blah. Supposedly knows jujitsu and all this other stuff. Wow, super. Well, then go fight MMA because we don't care here. You're bland. You're boring. Um, I'm just not interested. So thanks for screwing over Trick. It wasn't really in my forecast. And it's not something I wanted to see. So disappointed. The women's ladder match absolutely blew my mind. Did not think, did not expect, couldn't predict what happened. I was wishful thinking that this person would win, but I didn't think WWE actually had the balls to let that happen. You know what? Congratulations, WWE. Your balls dropped. And you had given Chelsea the interim women's championship. Which, can you just take the interim off? She's going to have to fight Rhea Ripley for it anyway, again. And that's a match. So she's just a woman's champion. Let's just say that. Let's not discredit this woman. Because this woman will be a legend one day. She's already on her way. Okay? And I was absolutely ecstatic that she won. Okay? That was a good match. No blood, no guts, nobody missed tooth, no broken noses. But it was a great match. And then we're going to move on to the last match of the night, which was Roman versus Seth. It was a decent match. Not going to knock it. A lot of give and take on both sides. No one dominated more than the other. A lot of Shield references during the match. Seth came out with a Shield mask on his face. He was taunting Roman the whole time about the Shield. Roman was talking shit back to him. They even mentioned John Moxley, well, aka Dean Ambrose. And I feel like it's not closure because I don't think they're going to close it until John Moxley is there. But it was a good match. Roman won. Deep down inside, we all hoped for Seth to win. And I thought that would be, again, great storytelling to have Roman lose this belt that he's so much cherished. I thought I thought the angle of what he said in his interview before the show, he said he would blow this place up if he lost the match, which I thought would have been great storytelling also, because then that furthers the Bloodline's anger and everybody that can't stand them, their hatred is going to burn more because they just powerbombed and destroyed everybody in the back room. And that would have been cool. But they decided to go another way, which is fine. I wasn't upset at the ending. Roman, you know, they sat corner across from each other and they looked at each other for a couple minutes. Like, I'm sure they were emotional. This was a great send off for them, if that's what it is. Roman stood up, put his fist out there like the Shield salute, and Seth stood up with the mask in his hand and actually gave him the fist bump. And Roman pointed at him and gave Seth props. Well, then after that, after the match, then when he got out of the ring, Jackie Redmond was standing outside the ring ready to interview him. She said to Roman, "What did you say to Seth in the ring when you were talking to him?" And he said, "I said it was always us two. Always our plan to be here at the end. And we ran these shows when COVID was going on. We didn't leave. We've never left. We don't complain. We just work." And they brought up Dean Ambrose. And I'm sure that crybaby remark was definitely pointed to CM Punk, with no doubt. CM Punk and Dean Ambrose. But he gave Seth Rollins his props. And that was what was really important because you see these people going toe to toe all the time, but you want them to recognize each other. You don't want any of this bullshit where, Roman is holding up the finger and acknowledge me, Seth, blah, blah, blah. You don't want to see that shit. You want to actually see them give props because it was a good freaking match. You know, I just feel like it was really good. Okay, and I was wrong. I said this was the last match. The actual match I've missed in here is Chad Gable versus Penta. Now that match was absolutely insane. Penta is insane. And deep down inside, there's not a Penta fan out there that wasn't rooting for Chad Gable. Okay? This little guy, Kurt Angle lookalike, wanted to be this champion for so long. Good for you. I'm happy that you've had this story turn and that you have absolutely turned that point and you have this arc where everybody is absolutely cheering for you. That is great. Great wrestler. Penta's a great wrestler. Penta, another guy who gave someone the props, helped him up, put the belt around his waist, and held his hands up in the air. So mad props to you on that match also. All in all, SummerSlam Night 2 was a success in my eyes. SummerSlam Night 1, I've been watching some podcasts and I've been watching some reels. Stevie Richards was talking about how these pay-per-views don't need to be 2 nights. These PLEs need to be one night. And maybe just a little longer. Because what you're doing is you're just stretching out things. And I got to be honest with you. The most disappointing part of the first night was this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to tell you the times of the matches, okay? And it's really disappointing, but CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes was 30 minutes long, night 1. Oba versus Brock was 12 minutes long. Liv and Sky was 13 minutes long. Gunther versus Aldis was 12 minutes long. The Usos versus Keys, LA Knight, and Solo was 11 minutes long. And of course, I'm going to say this because this is the last on my list as far as impressive matches. I'm going to say Fatal Influence versus the Bellas and Paige. It only went 8 minutes. And that's because it sucked ass. And we all knew when that 8 minutes was up and Fatal Influence left the ring, when they went back in the ring to go see Paige, we all knew. I knew. I knew what was coming. You're killing time. You're dragging time. It just doesn't look good. Again, better acting, better paced scenes. If you're an actor, if that's what you're saying this is, that's what you need to do. Overall, like I said, night 2 was the hero here. Not going to deny it. I'm not taking anything away from the CM Punk match. I'm not taking anything away from any of those matches, but they just weren't entertaining enough, and they were too fast. I mean, I looked at my wife as I was watching it, and I was like, "Wow, this match is over." Probably every match except for CM Punk, and I was like, "That's quick, wow." And they all ended up abruptly. So that's what I need to say is that they need to fix that. Okay, WWE has a good product. They're just not doing it right. They're not using it to its capabilities. Okay? So that was my recap for the night. Ew was the word of the night. And if you've watched night 1, that word probably came out of your mouth a couple times. And it might even came out on night 2, but it wasn't a bad ew, it was just an ew. Because KO came back and no one was expecting that. So I hope you enjoyed this update. If you have any comments, leave them in the comment section. I'd love to hear them. Until next time, see you next week.